So, good morning. Let's start off by everyone in the room admitting that we are lucky. As Americans, we don't live in a world of lawful racial segregation, and we all pretty much have basic civil rights. But a lot of people in the world don't have that. To us, those places where people of the wrong race, religion, or ethnicity are considered unequal seem far away and disconnected from our world. But amazingly, these problems are right at home. In my own neighborhood, we used to have this beautiful annual little block party where all of my neighbors would come together and barbecue and face paint and play on a moon bounce and just spend a great summer afternoon together. 3 years ago, religious tension flared. We're an integrated mix of Christians and Jews and Hindus and atheists, but we couldn't decide on whether the block party should be on a Saturday, Jewish Shabbat, or a Sunday, Christian Sabbath. The hate swelled in my neighborhood, and our neighborhood email chain became a battleground. For me, a freshman going into high school, it seemed unreal that our friendly little block party had ended and that some of my neighbors don't speak to each other anymore. This underlying racial and religious tension has had far broader implications. Walk into our own high school cafeteria during lunch, and you'll see color-coded cafeteria tables. Walk into our hometown of Philadelphia, and you'll see anti-Muslim hate ads running on SEPTA buses. In Ferguson and Baltimore, we have violent riots against racial profiling by police. And in Paris, we have fatal terrorist attacks carried out by angry French citizens. No matter which side you're on, the problem runs deeper than just public bus ad policies or requiring policemen to wear cameras. So the question is, how can we fix this? How can we mitigate this divide that tears neighborhoods and cities and whole countries apart? It's obvious that no amount of laws and no amount of violence is going to change anything. And people spend their whole lives pursuing the answer to this problem. I've only spent my high school career, but I think everyone can agree that the solution comes from us. Today I'm going to talk about ways that we can learn to understand one another. I'm not going to talk about laws or organizations or even local intercultural programs, though these things are really important. I'm going to talk about ways, concrete ways, that we as individuals can learn to become more tolerant and accepting of those who look and sound different from us. And I have 3 such solutions. 1, lose the obsession with political correctness. 2, consciously seek diversity. And 3, explore new cultures. So solution number 1, lose the obsession with political correctness. According to a recent Rasmussen survey, 79% of American adults think that political correctness is a problem. Now, what does that mean? So political correctness is the idea that we should get rid of all language and actions that could offend political sensibilities. And honestly, this idea of political correctness has become a huge deal recently, especially in government and social media. And it was started with the best of intentions. The point of it was just not to offend people and to prevent those quick reactions to anger, like that one email caused in my neighborhood block party fiasco. I myself have been quick to react when people cross that political correctness boundary. People will ask me questions like, what caste are you? Are you going to have an arranged marriage? Or, so you believe in reincarnation, right? So your grandma could be a bug, right? And I mean, those questions can be offensive to myself and many others. And this adverse reaction to crossing the political correctness boundary, these quick reactions have had far more disastrous outcomes. Political candidates become laughingstocks. Students boycott well-respected speakers. Race riots ensue. And Twitter becomes a battleground between dueling hashtags. It is because of this obsession that we don't have a language to address race. Let me repeat that. We don't have a language to address race. People are too afraid to talk about race and religion in fear of seeming politically incorrect and then getting this huge angry chain reaction. Race has become unspeakable. The point here is to lose that obsession with political correctness and don't be afraid to ask questions. All too often, someone will start asking me a question like, what religion are you? But they'll trail off, cut themselves off and say, I can't, I shouldn't, it's wrong. But it's not wrong to want to learn new information about someone, especially someone of a different race or religion. And asking questions is the way that we as individuals can learn to combat our own intolerance and ignorance. Don't let political correctness be that barrier that bars you from asking questions. And people love talking about themselves, especially to someone who seems interested. So take advantage of that and ask questions. But of course, asking questions goes two ways. To those on the other end, be receptive. Don't roll your eyes or get offended if someone asks you a politically incorrect question. I used to cry when people would ask me those questions because I was so offended. But now I try to take them as an opportunity to inform rather than as a way to get offended. The person's just asking you a question, and now you have the opportunity to teach someone a little bit about who you are and what you believe. Now, even if everyone goes out of their way to ask each other questions and goes out of their way to respond with new knowledge and enthusiasm, it is still just us asking them about what they believe. In the end, we still unconsciously surround ourselves by the people we're comfortable with, those of the same race and religion. I mean, look at your friend group. Does everyone look the same? Look at your colleagues. Does everyone look the same? Studies show that when people who don't know each other are placed in a room together, those of the same race will conglomerate. And the science behind why we do this ultimately comes down to our brains and the way that we essentialize and categorize things based on the way they look. Maybe that's why our cafeteria, school lunch tables are the way they are. It's really unconscious. So then the question is, if it's so unconscious, if this racial bias is part of our nature, how can we combat it? How can we ensure that we are interacting with people of different races and thus bridging that divide between us and them and combating our own ignorance? Solution number 2, consciously seek diversity. Because this racial and religious bias can be so unconscious, we have to bring this issue to the front of our minds every day. When you walk on the train, sit with someone who doesn't look like you. When you go to college and walk into a room full of people you don't know, introduce yourself to someone of another race and ask questions. When you're hiring, be conscious of race in the resumes that you pursue. But bringing race and religion to your mind every day is something we don't really want to do. It's kind of uncomfortable to think about. There was this recent study where they sent out the same resume to hundreds of employers, and they found that the same resume was 50% more likely to be called back for an interview if it had a stereotypically white name over a stereotypically black name. That's an uncomfortable truth. But in order to fight that, we must be aware, and we must make a conscious effort to interact with people and become friends with people of other races and bridge that divide between us and them. And who knows, you'll probably enjoy the wealth of experiences and the different ways of thinking that different people bring together in a friend group or in the workplace. But maybe going out of your way to meet new people and introduce yourself and ask questions, it's intimidating. Stepping out of your comfort zone like that is not for everyone. And that's okay. There's still a way for you to make a conscious effort to learn about those around you. Solution number 3, explore new cultures. One of the absolute best aspects of the work that I do is getting to try new foods from around the world. I've had so many new foods. I've learned some dance steps. I have learned a couple new words from new languages. And all of these things you can do with close friends. Go to a Caribbean restaurant, watch a Bollywood movie, or even visit a mosque. I promise you'll enjoy it, especially the Bollywood. I recently met a college graduate, and he was telling me about this big interfaith dance event that students at his school put on. They have cultural dance performances from all over the world, and like some 2,000 kids or something attend this event. And he called it a sham. He said, it's BS. These kids go to this event and watch these dances for 2 hours and feel really cultural, but when they leave, nothing has changed. I hear this all the time when I try to get people to come to similar lighthearted interfaith events. They ask, how could dancing and listening to music and eating new foods possibly make anyone more culturally aware? So with him, I tried to change the subject. I said, oh, you said there was Bollywood dance? I love Bollywood dance. What kind of Bollywood dance? And he started doing a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And there we were, 2 people of different races laughing and talking and accepting one another. And because he had explored a new culture by attending that event, he knew a little something about my culture that he hadn't known before. What could be more culturally aware than that? The process of changing the way that we think and the way that we treat one another is a long, long process. My neighborhood, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Ferguson, and Paris are not going to heal in just one step, but they will in many. And we as individuals have to be the ones to take that first step and make that first change. I look at my little sister, a freshman in high school. So today, 3 years after that religious tension tore apart my neighborhood, she is reorganizing our block party. And maybe it's because everyone sees how excited she is to be bringing my neighbors all back together, but now everyone of all races and religions is pitching in. Working towards understanding one another has to be a conscious effort that each and every one of us makes. And it's something that every one of us can do with the ways I just talked about. I hope that by the time my sister is a senior in high school, there won't be hate ads on her local buses and her cafeteria tables won't be color-coded. Thank you.